Yeah.
Yeah, hi everybody. It's our bi-weekly productivity life hacks meeting, and this is the first one. And today, generally in this meeting, we'll try to share some life hacks, some interesting information, some probably potential areas to investigate how we can use different toolings that many of us maybe don't aware, or something that we read or something we heard from other teams, because AI kind of changes drastically our cadence of the way we interact with the code base and the toolings. And myself and Jonas last week, well, not a couple of weeks ago, were thinking that it would be useful to create a recurrent to kind of share this information, but also kind of be a reminder for us to deep a little bit, to designate some time to deep into it and to share with everyone. So I would like I had spend some time the Duo. So my idea was initially, that's why I started to use Duo extensively, is can it be useful to generate some complex things like definitions? Because first of all, definitions changes quite a lot during the course of time. And while for us it's like pretty much slow changes, for other teams it could be very fast if they work twice, three times, or once in a few months. It could be very surprised with the new properties here and the new formats and so on. So that's why I was working a lot with Duo, trying to get useful information. It was never really consistent so far, but I'm just trying to give feedback and trying to use different prompts to extract something. Why it can be useful? Well, since we use CLI, probably it's not a major thing, but we don't know how it's gonna go in the future iterations of AI. Probably tools like CLI tool could be completely substitute with Duo chat, because I mean generally what CLI does is represent current state of code base in interactive way so people can implement the logic that we put in there. Well, Duo chat can just understand how it's implemented and basically gives the analysis in a readable way and it also in an interactive way. There are different approaches, but could potentially in the future achieve the same results. So with the recent iteration with Duo, it started to generate me what I actually asked for. So even simple prompt like generate a new internal event definition gave me a pretty good output which we can work with. Not ready for production, no for people to use, but we can use it as a team and we can see where it goes. It gives me good description what is actually happening here with the different fields and what then I should do with that, because Duo cannot really create these files and write it to the file system. But then again, not everything yet is ready, as I said, for people to use outside of our team. Like this doesn't make sense, doesn't explain. Probably it will be in the future. However, if I try to implement, generate same thing like bottometric, even if I ask this database is a data source, it gave me some, it started to hallucinate, gave me some start and just completely not correct things. And when I ask internal event, every page again, it gave me some. Then what really helped me when I asked to use an existing event definition from the code base and an example. It actually gave me a good thing. It went to actually code base. I mean, probably know it, but let's just try to be more formal. And it told me that there is a CLI script. It told me that where the file goes to, and then it gives me actually pretty good template. Little bit different approach here, right? To put documentation inside an example, how it can be used, and also a little bit give a little nickel to make sure I correctly named action fields. Give an example, which is pretty good. I don't remember we wrote like that or not in the documentation, but I mean that's something I can use myself to remind.
Yes,
And
I
it even
think
say, oh,
yes, I was just confirming that that is what we have in the documentation.
okay, good, yeah. And it even say that after creating event definition, you can proceed defining metrics. Again, probably it is in documentation, but the idea that it understood that event is not just event. Nobody uses event by itself on aggregating a metric, and I didn't ask specifically anything about metric in my request, but it just decided to give me this information, which is very kind of reassuring for the future. Okay, so I consider it's a little win for Duo team because 2 weeks ago it was completely hallucinated. Whatever I asked it, would just give me some imaginary castle, which just makes something that absolutely not useful. Yeah.
When you asked it to base the metric on an other event definition on an existing event,
Yeah, ask.
but you
Use.
didn't name the event, right?
No, I was thinking to give an example if it would
Mm.
fail again,
Yeah,
but seems like it understood pretty well.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Also, for the first example that you showed, where you just asked to generate to just generate a event definition file. Did you put in the description yourself after it's created it, or it was it interactive, or it gave you like a template where you edited?
No, I just ask it like this. This is what I ask here. This is kind of like a chat. Generate a new internal event definition. That's all I ask. And that's what I've got, the answer.
Okay.
So I didn't do any extra information. It's probably got it from somewhere from the code base because everything logical dashboard. I assume it just picked it from someone. An example of how, yeah. So it's figure out what is actually internal event, because in the past, if I ask something about internal events, it would generate some kind of imaginary event, which is how it imagined looks like. And this is internal to system. Okay, this internal event was something completely not from our code base, which is some concept. But here it's actually understands that GitLab has internal events framework, internal frameworks based on these entities, and that's how it's gonna work. That's why I'm just interested because all the toolings that we will potentially make could be substituted with this kind of entity. Probably I'm just repeating myself, but I was fascinated how it can understand and provide it in very consumable way, sort of information that can be used potentially in the future. Because what's currently happened, right? What is always bothering me is that we have code base which works in a certain way. Then we have documentation, which is kind of double, but it's necessary evil. We describe how code base works. We have test, which also describe in a way how the code base work. And then we have a CLI that's presenting the way to people to use the code base, which is already described, tested, um, and written. So the four kind of entities in the code base which describe something. Which and I was thinking that potentially I don't know how yet how our team is working with Duo, but if we could start kind of educated not educated, how to say, like we have a little bit of knowledge what we want. Potentially we can ask the Duo team to help us with some things. I don't know what, some little things. One of my example, I created an issue is that can we ask Duo to detect potential private information leak in the tracking code? Yeah, it's well, that was example. I would immediately started to think, well, if it understand this, it should understand what is, or understand what is tracking is, to understand what is personal information. Can we just combine these two entities? Yeah. Well, that's.
Do we have it? Do we have a way of using Duo or AI in general in CI?
As far as I know, we have. No, I mean that oldest one was merge request description. Then there was something else.
I wonder if we
And
could set up a rule that would, because
I
I think
was
the thing with detecting
yeah, I mean, I have so far very fuzzy understanding how it works. From what I've seen from the code base, they have like a prompt and explain like you are a software developer, you're looking at the merge request, you see how the code is organized. What we ask you is to first of all check if the code is following conventional guidelines, if codes contains any bugs that you can point, if there is enough code coverage like that. And then they get results. So it's kind of translating like just abstract ideas into more concrete steps, similar as we do in testing, sort of. Yeah. How to implement the custom rules? I couldn't. I mean, I didn't really look properly, to be honest.
yeah.
But
I was just wondering because I think when we do reviews of like analytics instrumentation reviews, it's very like a lot of them. It's basically the same thing we do. We check event definition, metric definitions. Do they match up? Do they have the like do they have introduced by URLs that looks right? What about milestones? And so they're kind of like a checklist that we go through, and I think that sounds like something, especially if you only look at the diff, like if it's something that is newly introduced, it would be pretty easy to give enough context to do like a first pass of the review. And I think then adding something like checking like is do you see a risk of personal information being locked here? Would also be pretty trivial. At least, I mean, as a first opinion.
yeah, that's what struck me straight away, because this repetitive, boring task we designated to TangiBot, but these rules are pretty much, they're becoming very big. They're hard to implement if it's a little bit more difficult than just simple string check.
Yeah.
And they're not always comprehensive because we cannot anticipate everywhere. Like, for example, right now it's not assigning us if the tracking code is called in JavaScript in certain cases.
Yeah.
But if something more intelligent could have take a look at the code, yeah. We were talking about this quite a lot with Basti so far because it sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
That is boring job which I myself really hate, to be honest. Just I can say not hiding it.
You what?
I kind of hate, strongly dislike looking at this repetitive 10 files and try to find the minor deviation or typo even in the team name or things like that. Yeah. Yeah. So I can just find this issue and just link it. Because I think we can maybe think about a few other issues which can similar things that we can maybe gather some ideas what we can use for our tasks to be a little bit.
Yeah. I also wonder if something like migrating Redis HLL to internal events, if that's something we could kind of come up, like do like a first draft automatically.
That's an interesting thing that I was also thinking that repetitive task, especially if we have an example in the past, we can give, for example, link to MR, say do something like that, but to this named event.
Yeah. Yeah, we have many examples of these that we've done, right? So that would be, yeah.
So yeah, the thing is, I mean, my idea how to approach this task was to just look at the code base who is actually mostly implementing these diffs and prompts, not diffs, it's prompts, and then just reach directly and start kind of asking questions if it's possible. And what Basti told me that other teams, he knows for sure, they have even like mini hackathons inside the teams on certain days, maybe
Okay.
one day a month or something like that, how they can use AI in their productivity, in the improvements of their processes. Yeah. I mean, it's probably more obvious for things like security scanning and dependency analyzing, something like that. For us, it's a little bit more tricky, but more interesting.
But I think it's also, I mean, we have repeatedly these migration tasks where we have hundreds or thousands things we want to do, and we've kind of, I don't know, jokingly been saying like sometimes this would be at a time where it would be nice to have 10 junior developers who'd be like, okay, you need this one, this one, this one, because they're all pretty simple and limited, but it's just the quantity is so high that we get so many reviews, we have so many yeah, just the volume is so big. I would be really, I would be really, so I've been doing a lot of command line kind of like gripping, kind of combined, kind of as I showed, was it the other sync meeting? And I think one tool that would be nice to combine with that is some kind of AI tool. So not really Duo, but more, and maybe I just don't know what tool to use. Maybe it's just API access or something. But to be able, like, if could somehow provide more context, more relevant context for some of these, I think that would be extremely useful. Like provide I don't know, a couple of files, just like the entire files, or I mean, we do have a lot of with the big context windows. Now we can send quite a bit of code in, I think, but if we just go through Duo all the time, we are kind of dependent on the the automatic context selection in Duo to be working well. And I think in many cases we would probably know better. I actually wonder if we could, in some cases, just like use all event and all metric definitions as context. I think that would probably be within the window or the scope of the yeah, the limitations of the windows. But I don't. Do you know who would know how to do something like maybe I should talk to Nikolai. Like he kind of knows.
Yeah, probably. I think there are two teams. One is model ops. They're more like how to operate this model, and another team who is more like developing and training the model. And they probably more like in the Python and somewhere else, not within kind of GitLab application. Yeah. A little bit more like data engineers or something than just Ruby developers. So it would be cross-domain sort of conversations. Yeah. So far, my next step is relevant to what you said is just to understand how the Duo understands the code base. If I can have a way to figure out, like ask it like, can you find me all the ways that Redis HHL uses directly, something like that. How does it work now within the current model? Because current model is Claude 3.5, as far as I remember from the docs documentations. Yeah, I mean it's a bit tricky because this model's getting changed, updated all the time. But at least try to understand, how can I, because greping and searching for code base is also time consuming. And if we can at least give an example, like, I mean, I use it a lot, honestly, in all this proof of concept that I create. I use Duo and I try to use Cursor, just I had a trial period, see how it works. It uses the same cloud model. I created proof of concept honestly using just the chat Duo chat. Just like the way, like, create me a server, create me an endpoint, take this protobuf, just deserialize it. And this way it works great. It's small code base, it's easy. But in the big code base, and small code base, not a big deal to understand how it works. But from the big, what you said would be really helpful. Yeah.
But
So
maybe we should also try to, actually, I think just because I was inspired now, I think I'll try to, as my homework, I'll try to find out what other channels we have for using AI other than Duo. Like, do we have API access, and what can we do, like with context and so on? Because I think that would, if we want to do a hackathon, which I think would be cool, of course we need to convince somebody. That's a good idea. But I mean, we have so many tasks that, where just like maintenance tasks where this could be useful. I think that would be a kind of a good starting point, like to know we have, so we can kind of dive into actually solving the problems and getting some results back and tweak them and so on. So we don't have to start with them.
Well, I would assume the API must be just a simple REST.
Yeah.
Probably, right?
I think it's more about like how do we provide context and so on. It might be there is a page somewhere. I just need to find it.
Okay. I think it would be really great if we could use this in since we now get most of these tasks like migrating to internal events, so that would really be very helpful. So I'm looking forward to what more we can achieve with this.
Yeah, I would also double on that. Yeah, that's a good point, because we had a few migrations already, and there could be any amount in the future, because it's keep getting developed. And now with the new data platform, I don't see anything happen right now, but potentially yes, because we added new things into event definitions, for example. I would assume metrics as well.
We have this. Mihao is working on this thing of this spike on combining timeframes. Right, so you have a metric definition with several timeframes. Right, so that means we have. I looked the other day. We have almost 1,000 metrics where we have both a monthly and a weekly. So we could get rid of almost 1,000 metric definitions, but it's a huge migration. I mean, it's probably not so bad because but it would be, we could probably need some help there.
Yes.
to
Yeah.
get that done. And I think it would be great if we didn't have to be afraid of this, or kind of worried about these kind of tasks to take them on because they will go on for so long.
Yeah, they will definitely will be always. We just have these files and framework is getting developed, and now there is a instrumentation layer. I don't think it will be any drastic, but there will be some changes as well, I anticipate, where we can use internal.
Even the thing you suggested about adding if data is has to be anonymized or not, that is also kind of a migration that we can yeah, we have to do, or potentially want to do. Cool.
Well, yeah, that's all from me for today. So yeah, I mean, for me personally, as a outcome of discussion, I see that we need to investigate more how we can have good connections with folks who develop and train Duo, because we really have these tasks. AI should be pretty good for. At least we can understand what we can do from our side. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be great if we learn some more about that.
Yeah, good.
Okay. Should we say that that's the end of this first call? And
That's
then
it. That's the end of this. Thank you.